Welcome to Enigma Daily, everybody. Friday edition. Sorry we're running a minute late. I actually had an error that I did, and I was actually streaming to the wrong platform there for a hot minute. Anyway, so today, let me get this taken care of so we're not disturbed. You know how we do around here on Fridays, and if you don't, you're about to. On Fridays, we talk about biblical prophecy, biblical translations, things of that nature, and we got actually a very good article that came across my desk that was published earlier in the year, but we're going to talk about it right now because it's actually pretty relevant. Here's the article right here, and as always, the link will be in the description of the video. You can go check it out. The article is pretty simple. It was written on January 6, 2025, and I'm going to go through the 11 prophetic signs that prove 2025 will be historic. And we'll see if they're actually accurate. Even though it's only November, it's close enough. So let's get right into this. Written by this guy named Tom Hughes, right? The Tom Hughes report, right? And he lists out 11 things that he says that will prove that 2025 is the end of the era, shifting us into a new biblical timeline, aka the book of Revelations, basically, right? He says, number one, there'll be a rise in the church of unbelievers, right? False teaching. He pointed out that congregations have embraced doctrines that deny biblical truths, all facts, right? Some of them are even taking out the existence of hell, baptism, and God's authority. This actually happened. And he quotes that Timothy 4:1 says, the Spirit expressly says that in later times, some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines and demons. All you got to do is drive around the church, see what kind of stuff that they're advertising on the outside, and you'll see that it's not the doctrine that was in the word. So number one, check. Two, a system that cannot be escaped, right? He's talking about the rise of technology in our society. He references Revelations 13:17. And he is not wrong on this either. There is a massive push, I would say, for digital currency to take place, cryptocurrencies. The fiat system is definitely dying on there. But again, that's kind of vague. Technology, you know, back in the day, we used to use silver coins. That kind of evolution doesn't really scare me as much, right? Number three, he talks about, number two was a little too vague for me. Number three, unparalleled deception. He's talked about that we've entered an era where deception is almost impossible to avoid. He also says, you know, false Christ, false prophets will rise, show great signs and wonders. Again, this is kind of cherry picking. False prophets have always been around, in my opinion. Some people always show up now, every now and then, claiming to be Jesus. You go on TikTok or Instagram, someone's always talking about a vision they got or whatever. I think those are demon inspired. Matter of fact, don't ever go to people to get your, you know, fortunes read or anything like that. Don't do that, right? So yeah, three. Now again, four, rise in anti-Semitism. He quotes Ezekiel 36 and adds that God is bringing his people home as he promised. This right here is a straight up misinterpretation of Ezekiel 36 and 37. That's already happened, right? In the book of Revelations, it does talk about how he rounds up the tribes of Israel go back to their homeland. And he's quoting a rise of anti-Semitism for that. That's not actually true. What you're seeing around the world is you're seeing they already had their calling back, right? And the second temple was completed. They already had that. And Jesus came down, and in 70 AD, God sent his wrath against Jerusalem. And those historians will try to tell you they only killed 100,000. They actually killed about 1 million people. They crucified a lot of people. So when Jesus is sitting outside the temple talking to his three besties out there, and he says that, you know, don't even go back into your house and get your cloak and, you know, just run. He's referring to this event that happened in 70 AD. Again, you need a little bit of discernment to break these two scriptures down, in my opinion. There is no more chosen people. There is no more covenants on the earth. God has a covenant with his son, Jesus Christ. And, you know, no one gets to the Father without going through the Son, right? So Christians are the chosen people on the earth only because of your faith in Jesus Christ, right? There is no covenant. There is no more chosen people. Now, God does want everybody to come to him. And this is important, right? I don't want to feed people's narratives. But it's important to know that God wants everybody to his side. He will call back the people, the Jews. He will call them back to Israel to convert them to Christianity. That's what it's going to be. There is no separate. No one gets into heaven without, going through the Son, period. You deny me on earth, I'll deny you in front of my Father. There's so many scriptures in there as well, right? So it's not a rise in anti-Semitism across the globe. Christianity is exploding across the globe. There's a rise in Christianity. And you have to remember that Christianity and Judaism are conflicting religions. They cannot coexist together in the long run. It can't happen, right? One of them denies the Christ, which is the Antichrist, and the other one embraces the Christ, right? So what you're seeing is that. And you can't stop, guys. You can't stop God's divine timeline. These events will happen. And I do think that if you look through history, even as early as when Moses took them out of, Egypt, within 30 days, they rebelled. When he was on the mountain, they rebelled. They wanted idols and stuff like that. And you see this whole cyclical thing that happens throughout history where God judges them. He judges them. He judges them. He judges them. I think it's about to happen again, actually. So history does repeat itself, right? So number 4, possible, but again, misworded. He probably used that to be safe. Anyway, so focusing on Jerusalem. Jerusalem is coming a burdensome stone for all nations, who says. And he highlights Zechariah 12:3. He highlighted that the growing tension surrounding Israel capital, including international disputes over sovereignty, is exactly what the Bible said would happen in the last days. Yes and no. In the book of Revelation, New Jerusalem is on the earth. And that's what God defends. And God defends New Jerusalem because it's full of Christians. It's not full of Jews or whatever. So that's a pretty accurate statement on there. But you have to admit that Jerusalem is in the news a lot. But the Jerusalem you hear about now is not the New Jerusalem that's in the book of Revelations that's going to be dealt with, right? Number 6, Hughes details the alliance forming between nations like Ezekiel 38, Russia, Iran, and Turkey, right? That is happening. And they'll try to tell you that it's Gog and Magog. That's not true at all. Gog and Magog are Nephilim tribes. If you go and read the book of, if you go and read the Quran, which I recommend you do, you should read these books. The Torah is just the first 5 chapters of, the current Christian Bible. That's it. They took out the book of Daniel, which is the Old Testament, because the book of Daniel, the Jews reject that because it accurately predicts the coming of Jesus Christ. So they just take it out, right? The Torah, Gog and Magog in the Torah are Nephilim. And it talks about how every day they go down and they touch this wall and it, rebuilds itself and it waits. But in the end of times, that wall breaks and they come out and they're the ones that attack. And if you go to book of Revelations, it talks about the crows feasting on the bodies of men and mighty men. Mighty men are Nephilim, right? So Gog and Magog is not going to be Russia, Turkey, and Iran. God doesn't care about borders. That's what people need to understand. He wants the whole planet. He wants everybody, right? They might come out of Russia. They could come out of Iran. They could come out of Turkey. I don't know. But Gog and Magog are not nations. They're Nephilim, right? And again, if you go back to the top, church of unbelievers, they take Nephilim out. They don't talk about the Nephilim in the church anymore. They don't talk about any of the mystical stuff that happens in the Bible. They dumb it down. It's all about, Jesus, which is a good thing, but they don't ever really compound on, the miracles and stuff like that happen into it, right? The destruction of Damascus in Isaiah 17, where it says Damascus will become a ruinous heap. That's already done. That's check. That's off the book. Damascus is destroyed. We have allowed Syria to be destroyed. And again, you couldn't stop it because God's divine timeline is going to be met, right? Daniel 12 talks about knowledge would increase and people would move to and fro. That's happening right now. AI is everywhere. People are getting smarter. The great deception has been noticed. The great noticing is going to continue. All this stuff is going on, right? So that's happening now. So check that off. Here's where I disagree with him on this right here. I don't know what Donald Trump's re-election has to do with anything that has to do in the book of Revelations. He quotes Daniel 7, where he says he stands as a bulwark against the globalist agenda. Yeah, I don't know about that one, right? So I don't know. Like it's possible. I don't know. I know he's a very confrontational figure to his enemies, and he has a very strong cult following to him. But I don't know if I would put Donald Trump as a bulwark against Daniel 7 and globalism. I don't know. Time will tell on that one. And I don't think we'll see that by the end of 2025. Now, the globalist agenda, again, that's cherry picking. They've been talking about the New World Order since the early 90s. The first W. Bush gave a famous speech, and he built the Denver International Airport to try to make that happen, right? And, that's also when it's talk about Revelation 13 and the 10 kingdom systems in Daniel 2. Again, globalist agenda, they've been trying to get that for a while. They've been trying to install a new world order, a one world government under Satan. That's been going on. That's been going on for a long time. And 11, calls for peace and a one world leader. Calls for peace, there's nothing ever wrong with that. And you've been hearing rumors of wars and pestilence and famine ever since you were born. So I don't know about that, man, about and I haven't heard anybody call anything about a one world leader stepping place or coming forward. I haven't heard anything about that in 2025. So the article I thought was interesting, but I also thought that it was just right, in line with everything you've been hearing for the last 30 years of your life, probably. These things will come to pass. However, I do not think they're coming to pass right now. I actually think that we're probably around the fourth seal in the book of Revelations. Now, remember, the book of Revelations is a 2,000 plus year story. It means to reveal. People want to get caught up in the 7 years of tribulations. It's not even the 7 years of tribulation. You have 3.5 years of the minor tribulation, and you have 3.5 years of the major tribulation. But it literally states that God will cut those days short. If not, nobody would survive on this earth, period, right? So the book of Revelations is not a 7-year journey. It's a 2,000-year journey that's been taking place, probably actually longer. There is a theory that our current date and time are all lies, and that we're only living in 1854. Who knows? We'll probably never know the truth of that. Maybe we will someday. Maybe we won't. But either way, it's very interesting. I thought it was interesting. I think it's a good way to wrap up the Friday. If you're interested, again, the link to this video is in the description of this video. Go check it out and let me know your thoughts on it. If this is the first time you're finding us, we're the Enigma Daily. We talk about cryptids, UFOs, UAPs, ancient civilizations, biblical prophecies, and conspiracy theories on this channel. We go live Monday through Friday, every day around noon, to talk about these in about 10 or 15 minutes. If you're interested in our long form interview style content, go back to the landing page. You'll see the Ancient Enigma files. Go over to my main channel and give that a follow. But if you're just not finding us here, do us a favor. We're trying to grow the channel. We got 42 subs. I'm trying to get to 100 by the end of the year, just because. You could give us a subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and leave a comment down there if you have anything to talk about. Or if you disagree with what we're talking about, give it a thumbs down. But just let me know the reason why, so we can adjust and not keep making the same mistakes over and over and over. So you guys have a great weekend, and we will see you all on Monday. And we're out.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.